Right now to this, we have some refreshingly sane news to share as the International Olympic Committee announces that biological males who identified as transgender women cannot compete in the female category at future Olympic Games. IOC President Katie Pavlich explained the decision.
The scientific evidence is very clear. Male chromosomes give performance advantages in sports that rely on strength, power, or endurance. So it's absolutely clear that it would not be fair for biological males to compete in the female category.
This is a win for fairness, female athletes, and common sense, but unfortunately, such sense is actually not that common. Take, for example, this weekend's planned No Kings protest. Organizers declare no Trump takeover and power belongs to the people. But didn't we, the people, just put Trump back in office? Joining me to discuss are Democratic strategist Nomiki Konst and former RNC national spokeswoman Elizabeth Pipko. So, Nomiki, we'll go to you first. There are planned protests this weekend. The organizers say that we're declaring in America we have no kings. Of course, this is true. We elect our leaders. Donald Trump was elected. We have an election coming up. And the fact that they can even go out and protest this weekend, I think, proves that we don't have a king. So maybe they should rename their protest. What do you think?
I mean, today it was announced that Donald Trump is the first president to want to put his face on our currency. So there are a lot of
presidents on the currency.
Well, after they died many, many, many years later, not while they're currently president. That's it's coming from his administration. So, you know,
for the 250th anniversary of America. I mean, it's a big anniversary, and he is the president.
So put George Washington on it. There's so many people you would do to honor the 250 years. Donald Trump is not responsible for 250 years of democracy, especially given January 6th and the fact that he is reshaping the world order right now by picking a new war every single week. Listen, No Kings is an honest, democratic event. 200 different organizations have come together. 5 to 7 million people over the last few No Kings have come together across 3,000 different cities. This is likely to be one of the biggest protests, if not the biggest event, organizing event in history in the United States. People have the right to exercise what they feel, and the elections have been very close. So, you know, if Donald Trump doesn't want to be labeled a king, then maybe, I don't know, follow the Constitution.
Elizabeth, I think it's just so interesting they're saying this is a no kings protest when the Democrats are the side of the political spectrum that wants to control every aspect of every person's life. They want to ban gas leaf blowers. Under the Biden administration, we're going to ban gas cars. They want to control how you live your life on every single aspect. And also the groups that are involved in no kings. Not only are they chanting for the murder of ICE agents at the previous No Kings protests, but they're run in these local jurisdictions by the Communist Party of America, the Democratic Socialists of America. And what's worse than a king is a communist.
I'm so glad that you said that, Katie. That is exactly right. Too bad that those that are protesting have no idea about the dangers of communism and what it actually is that they are supporting. Look, I think it's ironic that we're doing this at a time when we have so much going on around the world, right? There is so much we can be discussing right now. And instead, we're discussing the fact that a bunch of people without jobs who have no idea what's going on in their country or around the world, or how lucky they are to be in the United States of America, are protesting a so-called king when they, let's be honest, kept their mouths shut when there were tens of thousands of people slaughtered in Iran for doing the very same thing that they're trying to do this weekend, despite our horrible dictator, Donald Trump, right? They didn't speak up then. They're not going to speak up because they prefer those communist fascist regimes. And I have to tell you, I'm insulted personally as someone whose parents fled the Soviet Union, someone who didn't get to meet her grandfather because of the evil tactics of the KGB. This is an embarrassment to the United States of America. And it's not Americans that are laughing. It's the entire world that's laughing at them.
Well, I will say, I will wish them good weather for their protest, at least.
I
can give them that. Nomiki, I want to get to the Olympic Committee's announcement. J.K. Rowling called the IOC policy a welcome return to fair sport for women and girls, but recalled that the 2024 Games, when people who considered themselves supremely virtuous and progressive publicly cheered when men were punching women. So now that the Olympics have recognized there are differences between the sexes and women's sports need protecting, shouldn't this be the standard implemented across all playing fields to protect female athletes, whether they're Olympians or whether they're competing for scholarships in high school?
I'm not an expert on Olympic committees, but what I do know is that they're very complicated and that countries that sit on certain committees have more of a role than others. I do want to go back to that communist point, though, because my grandparents also fled Hoja. And let me tell you something. When they came to the United States, they supported the Democratic Party for a reason, because they believed in democracy. And one thing that Donald Trump does not believe in is democracy, whether he's invading countries without a war powers vote, going into Venezuela, and by the way, cutting some sort of deal with Maduro to prop up the person who, the people who propped up Maduro. So you want to be against
Venezuelans
communism?
love it.
I'm sorry. Delcy is somebody who is her administration has been the one who's been propping up Maduro. Any Venezuela expert knows this. So if you want to be against communism,
so you're advocating for regime change in Venezuela?
Donald Trump is the last person in the world who is on the opposite side of communism in whatever form that is. USSR,
so
Stalinism.
Trump is a communist now?
Well, he's siding with forces that have consistently aligned.
Then wouldn't you have voted for him
in the previous days? No, this is not about there's no communism in the world.
Well,
There's never been communism in the world.
Okay,
it's
so
about
the reason I brought up
communism,
Mickey, is because these groups that we've seen at these No Kings protests previously are openly associated with the Communist Party, the Communist Party of America, the Democratic Socialists of America, Socialist USA. You go to these groups and these rallies, and they're all there. But I want to get Elizabeth in before we have to go. Elizabeth, go ahead.
And lumping them together, and that is
they're at the rallies, Nikki. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Same people that are protesting this weekend against the king that we do not
let Elizabeth finish. Okay, let her talk.
Women believe that men should punch women. These are the very
Nobody can hear either one of you, so we can't all talk over each other. No, Mickey and Elizabeth, thank you very much for joining me. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Siding with the foreign adversaries and putting America at risk.